Make this really slow and painful.
And now you see nothing more.
Kill him! Oh my god. So I guess for Nioh 2, he can come back and... I'm gonna get high on sick amounts of Emerita right now. Heading back to Japan to help your friends? What a nice guy. Why, thank you, game, for allowing us to record beyond that. How nice of you. Oh, is that it? Is that finally it? Holy Christ. Please. Credits roll again? Or, well, I guess there's no point. Wow. Three trophies. About 4? Compass no longer points anywhere. I'm finally free. Yeah, thank God. Tell me about it. Hayaku Yagu. The way of the strong has been unlocked. In this mode, the difficulty of missions is increased, but so is the strength of the equipment you receive. You can change modes from the country map. Oh, yeah, we're not doing... Okay, that was weird. Huh. Wait, what? Oh wait, does it auto just kick you straight into... Wait a minute, let's go back to country map. Oh, okay, wait, the samurai. Okay, wait, the... Ah, okay, I got you. Okay, now that's a pretty cool way of doing it. Oh, it lets you skip some regions. Alright, that's pretty neat. I like the way they did that. But I can tell you right now, like, due to that whole ending sequence, I have zero desire to play New Game Plus. Which basically is what Way of the Strong is. After all that crap. I was 100%. I have -0. So I guess I'll finish up my review. So overall, fantastic game. Despite everything said at the end there, fantastic game overall. The end drug out way too far. Way too far. It really should have ended before we even got to the Oni region. The one where, I don't even remember who the boss was there. But it could have ended easily like 3 missions earlier than the ending you thought was the ending, and then it drug on for even further than that. So yeah, the game really was good. It didn't know how to finish itself. It added there's way too much stuff at the end, like with all of that crap. It's like, just end, just finish. Like at some point you kind of want to put a bow on it. Right, you want to wrap things up and move on. You don't want to play it for eternity. So I definitely felt this game definitely abused that. I guess it's cool that they have these extra missions that are basically just fight multiple bosses at the same time, or fight a boss with really tough ads. I mean, I guess it's cool that it's there. And I might go back at some point once I've kind of let Nioh get out of my system and I actually want to play it, because I have no doubt, as frustrated as I am with the game right now, and frankly bored with the game as I am right now, I know I want to play it again. It's definitely a game I want to pick up again and either make a new character and try a different build, or play my existing character and, like, you know, do something, you know, finish the rest of the missions or play New Game Plus. So I maybe will come back and record doing these, like slogging through these, because make no mistake, it'll be a slog. but it definitely not anytime in the near future, so don't count on it. But to wrap up the review, just very quickly, I talked about the gameplay. I thought the combat was excellent, miles above Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Bloodborne combat was better than Dark Souls. This game was head and shoulders above Bloodborne combat. They really took the like base Dark Souls formula, the losing your stuff on death, the bonfires, the difficult enemies, all of that kind of stuff, somewhat limited healing, things like that, and they did put like their own spin on it. It's not just Dark Souls with a samurai skin on it. They really did add enough. Not all of it I liked. Like the item system I felt to be tedious to use. I'd have much rather had a Dark Souls style where there's less armor, but you're not checking your inventory after every couple missions. And to be fair, like the first, I'd say 3/4 of the game, that's not really necessary, or at least for roughly 3/4 of the game, that's not really necessary. As long as your gear isn't like super, super old, it's okay. But near the end, where the levels are higher than you are, I've definitely felt like every mission I needed to go in, check the items. If I had better, put on the better items, re-roll the stats into something from something useless like versus damage against firearms into something else. So I felt like way too much of my time was doing that instead of playing the game. So that got tedious. The whole inventory management. I know some people will like that aspect, and that's cool, but most games like that I don't like. Or I don't like that aspect. Borderlands, Diablo even, I get kind of tired of that whole mechanic after a while, and I just kind of ignore loot and kill stuff. But, and like I said, for a lot of the game, as long as your gear is halfway decent, you can mostly ignore that. But near the end, I definitely felt more like I really needed to keep on top of it. The bosses, I also felt overall were weak. They tried to make too many bosses quote unquote difficult by just giving them a ton of hit points and making them do a ton of damage, but the actual fights themselves weren't difficult. So it was a case of just slowly whittling down the boss, and if you make 1 or 2 mistakes, you get destroyed. That kind of stuff, I hate those types of fights. Like once in a while is fine, but I felt like too many of the fights did that. And I do, in the duel fights, overall were my least favorite because a lot of times they broke the rules, and that was one of the cool things about this game was the enemies. Most of them followed rules, like with ki. Even the demons sort of kind of followed the rule of ki, like running out of ki and being weaker and all of that. But then for the duel fights, I felt for a lot of those they cheated and gave them like insane regen, insane ki block resistance. They allowed them to dodge and attack even when they had no ki. So I felt like that was a little cheap. So it kind of ruined it. And then some of the bosses, like the bigger bosses, were just too easy. Like the frog boss was crazy easy. And obviously there's going to be some disparity between the difficulty of the bosses, and that's fair enough. But I feel like there wasn't, like, I can't point to very many fights in this and say that was a really good fight, in that the boss's hit points were not insane, but the boss is also challenging because of the moveset, not because they just have a ton of hit points and they do a ton of damage. Honestly, one of the best fights, I think, was the bird lady, because but even she was like, again, her patterns were a little bit too predictable. With Dark Souls, I feel they're a little less predictable. Obviously, they have certain patterns. They don't invent new moves or completely change up their patterns. But I felt like there was more variability overall in how the bosses attacked you in Dark Souls, making them more difficult. Or they would have like 5 different melee attacks on top of their special attacks. And sometimes those movesets had similar animations, and you had to like figure out which one they were using quickly and react. I didn't feel like it was the case in this game. I felt like once you knew their their attack patterns, they were very limited in what they could do. And therefore, once you got the pattern, you could avoid them most of the time. But again, because of the hit points, because of the damage, if you make 1 or 2 small mistakes in a row, that's just it. You're game over. And Dark Souls didn't feel like that with bosses. Obviously, it's not the rule. Sometimes that was true, but for the most part, I felt like it was more of you made multiple mistakes, or you made multiple mistakes over a time period and wore yourself out ran out of Estus or whatever. So I felt like that was one of the weaker parts of this game was the boss fights. But overall, phenomenal. Would I say this game is better than Dark Souls and Bloodborne? Honestly, absolutely, yes. I did play Bloodborne again not too long ago, like playing a little bit of it, and I immediately missed the combat of this game. Now, obviously, it's not just combat. There's the world and all that, and I like the locations in this game. Obviously, the maps and stuff are not even close to the level Dark Souls and Bloodborne, right? With the whole interlinking and all that. Like, I love the maps and the styles of maps, just the way that they're set up in Dark Souls. And they weren't bad in this game, but they're just not as good. And with everything being so disjointed, that's just going to happen. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it being disjointed like this. I consider it a minor negative that it wasn't one big mostly contiguous world, like mostly Dark Souls are in Bloodborne. But overall, yes, I would say that this was better. Like I have, other than my frustration that I have right now of the end game being drug out far more than it should have been, I definitely could see myself coming back to this before Dark Souls and before Bloodborne. It was a phenomenal game. Great job on their part. I'm glad I bought full price DLC and all of that. As far as a rating, 1 out of 10, and I use the full scale. 5 is like an average game. It has about much good as bad. It's not a bad game. It's just like, probably worth skipping because it's got as much good as it does bad. And unlike IGN, a 7 is still a very good game. Well, a good game, I'd say. I would give this, off the cuff, I'd give it at least an 8.5. Again, other than the bosses, other than the loot pinata stuff, other than the end dragging out further than it really needed to, I feel like this is just a phenomenal game. Honestly, I'm leaning more towards a 9, but I want to be a little conservative and give it an 8.5. But I'm leaning towards a 9. This was a phenomenal game. A great job by Team Ninja. Again, there's obvious, it wore its influences from Dark Souls on its sleeve. But it did its own stuff enough that it's its own thing, right? It really felt like its own separate entity. And overall, I felt like it was improvement on the From-like genre, if you want to call it that. Phenomenal. I'm looking forward to the DLC. I always say I'm interested in the DLC, that I'll play it for the channel, that I never do. So just to cautiously say, I plan on playing the DLC when it comes out. Not going to guarantee it, but I did buy the season pass. So I plan on doing it. We'll see if it actually happens. And like I say, if people really want me to, and if after at least a week of time passes to kind of make me not frustrated, I might come back and do some or all of these. But like I say, I don't like the fights where it's just like you're doing a little bit of damage, dodge, a little bit and like just slowly wearing enemies down. And that's what these fights are going to be. Because you can't just go in and wail because there's 2 enemies, and you do that, you're going to instantly die. So it's very low on the priority list, let's put it that way. But it's not completely out of the question. But anyway, that is completely enough rambling from me. Thank you guys for watching. Kudos to those who stayed with me through the whole series, through the good, through the bad, through the salt, through the bitterness, the anger, the happy times. Definitely thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you overall thought of the game. Let me know what you overall thought of the commentary, my commentary. Again, I'm open to negative and positive feedback. If you think you complain too much, make sure to mention it. I'm probably never going to change, but I'm trying not to bitch too much about when I get frustrated. But that's when I tend to just shut up. I don't talk. And that's not really great either. But anyway, again, definitely want to know overall what you thought of the series, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. Leave likes if you do like it. It helps me a lot. And I will see you guys in the next Let's Play.